Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Aaron.
Aaron is here, everyone. Welcome back for more SPTV, where every day's a great day not to be in a cult. Okay, we are going to discuss some new information that, well, it's new information to me. I assume it's new information for most of you about Scientology's tactics to take out its perceived enemies and critics. This is mind-blowing, what we're going to discuss. This is something that was published in Mike Rinder's blog a few days ago. I've never seen it published before. Now, it's not going to come as a surprise to any of you that Scientology goes after its critics and goes after anyone that it perceives to be an enemy. But the exact structure and training components that exist within the Scientology organization to train staff in the Office of Special Affairs to bring about these products is going to blow your mind. Every now and then, the question will come up, in the spaces where former Scientologists are talking about Scientology is, how is Scientology any worse than, insert the name of some other religious organization? And there's a lot of discussion and arguments that could be made on the subject of which organization is worse, which organization has hurt a greater number of people. After all, Scientology is a very small cult, always has been. There's only about 20 to 30,000 Scientologists in the entire world. But I'll tell you one way in which Scientology is different than these other organizations that anybody could name, is that Scientology has a department of staff dedicated to trying to destroy critics. Anyway, let's get into this. Before I show you the thing that I've never seen before, which is going to blow your mind, let's do a little refresh on some of the information that's already been out there for a while, but is also mind-blowing. Specifically, we're going to look at what was published. This is everything we're going to discuss in this video is from the same blog post. This right here is, let's read a little bit about Paulette Cooper, a journalist who published some critical information about Scientology and became one of Scientology's #1 enemies. It says, in the spring of 1976, 6 separate schemes were devised with the express purpose, quote, to get Paulette Cooper incarcerated in a mental institution or jail, or at least to hit her so hard that she drops her attacks. This was from an operation. It's called Operation Freakout. And the information that we're reading from here is from it's from documents taken from an actual prosecution against Scientology by the government, which is why the Scientologists here are referred to as defendants. Okay, the stated purpose of Operation Freakout was to remove Paulette Cooper from her position of power so that she cannot attack Scientology. Also, Defendant Herman's proposals in this document, blah, blah, blah. The 6 separate schemes were jointly entitled Operation Freakout. In its initial form, Operation Freakout had 3 different plans. The first required a woman to imitate Paulette Cooper's voice and make telephone threats to Arab consulates in New York. The second scheme involved mailing a threatened letter to an Arab consulate in such a fashion that it would appear to have been done by Paulette Cooper. The third scheme, a Scientology field staff member. Guys, real quick, normally in Scientology, field staff member or FSM refers to a Scientologist that makes money bringing new people into Scientology. In these documents, the Office of Special Affairs uses the term FSM or field staff member to refer to a Scientologist that is acting as an OSA agent. It's a little confusing if you're already familiar with Scientology, but I just wanted to explain that. Okay, the third scheme was that a Scientology field staff member, I'm just going to call it a Scientology agent, was to impersonate Paulette Cooper at a laundromat and threaten the president and the then Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. A second Scientologist would thereafter advise the FBI of the threat. The fourth plan called for a Scientology agent who had ingratiated themselves with Paulette Cooper to gather information from Paulette Cooper so Scientology could assess the success of the first 3 plans. The fifth plan was for a Scientologist to warn an Arab consulate by telephone that Paulette Cooper had been talking about bombing them. The sixth and final part of Operation Freakout was to obtain Paulette Cooper's fingerprints on a blank piece of paper, type a threatening letter to Henry Kissinger on that paper, and mail it. Paulette Cooper was indicted and standing trial for these framed crimes until these documents came to light following the FBI raid on Scientology in 1977. For anyone who is not already familiar with Paulette Cooper or what Scientology did to try to destroy this woman's life, that information would be shocking. This is an organization that was subsequently given its tax-exempt status back in 1993 by the IRS. Okay, so now I ask you, any of the other major religious organizations or entities that you might think of when people go, well, how come you're talking about Scientology? How's Scientology any worse than this organization or that organization? Abuse has occurred in every major organization that exists. Do any of the world's major religions have an intelligence and dirty tricks department tasked with framing critics for crimes for which they could be imprisoned? I ask you. I don't think so, but what do I know, guys? I grew up in a cult. Okay, let's get back to this document and see what else was revealed. Of course, there's Gabe Cesaris, the former mayor of Clearwater. And if I had a little more time, I'm a little pressed for time right now. If I had a little more time, I would dig into the Gabe Cesaris section of this blog post. I will put a link to the blog post in the description down below, but I actually want to get to the drills that were published here of where Office of Special Affairs staff members practice doing things like spreading rumors and third-partying people. Third-partying, the way it's used in Scientology, is L. Ron Hubbard says that for a conflict, a disagreement, or an argument to persist and resist being handled, it has to be being fomented by an unseen and undetected third party. So there has to be one person whispering into person A, into person A's ear, negative things about person B. And then that same person is supposed to be whispering into person B's ear, negative things about person A. L. Ron Hubbard says that this is a universal truth, that this is the reason for all conflicts that don't easily resolve. It sort of dismisses the fact that there are legitimate reasons for long-term unresolved conflicts, but this is one of the basic Scientology principles that Scientologists are taught. It is a fundamental truth. And in these drills, L. Ron Hubbard takes that truth and weaponizes it. And let's see what he has to say. So first, the spreading rumors. Okay, so this is a drill. This is literally drills that Office of Special Affairs staff do. Drill, spreading rumors. Flunk for anyone spotting you as a source of falsity or troublemaking, etc. 1, spread a rumor to another, then write up the results. Spread a rumor to another and get him or her to spread that rumor to someone else. Write up the results. Get a rumor spread around a small group to a point where at least 4 others repeat it to others. Write up the results. Get a rumor spread around a large group, more than 30 people, to a point where at least 5 others repeat it to others. Write up the results. Third partying. Okay, next set of drills here. It says this is the L. Ron Hubbard dogma that a hidden source of false information causes conflicts. Okay, what are the instructions for this drill? Flunk for being challenged as a source of third party or conflict. Step 1, third party someone to another. Write up the results. Third party someone to another, ensuring that you get as your product certainty that that person third party to really is in doubt about the other person or has a lessening of ARC for that person. ARC in Scientology is, if you've ever seen the Scientology symbol, it's an S with 2 triangles. And the bottom triangle is called the ARC triangle. It means affinity, reality, and communication. And in this context, affinity just means how much you like someone. Reality means how much you agree with someone. And communication is how much you're willing to communicate with someone or do communicate with someone. LRH says that these things increase or lessen in proportion to one another. If you raise or lessen one corner of the triangle, the other 2 corners will also raise or lessen. So in Scientology, the term ARC break is a euphemism for I have an upset with someone. I'm ARC broken with Joe means I'm pissed off at Joe. Okay. So basically he says that the product is third party someone to another person, ensuring that you get as your product certainty that the person third party to really is in doubt about the other person or has a lessening of ARC for that person. Write up the results. Okay, step 3, third party someone to another, ensuring you get as your product an observed conflict between the two. Write up the results. Next step 4, third party a group to another group, ensuring you get as your product certainty that the group third party to really is in doubt about the other group or has a lessening of ARC for that group. Write up the results. Okay, this next drill, this stuff just gets worse and worse and worse. Okay, the next drill is creating effects. Okay, the instructions include the caution: do nothing illegal or anything which done without thought could reflect poorly back on Scientology or yourself. That is press, police record, etc., harming Scientology or yourself. Okay, flunk for disbelief of your disguise or for effect not fully created. Guys, I just have to remind everyone, these are drills put together by a so-called religious organization that the IRS has granted tax-exempt status to as being a religious entity that operates for some public benefit. And this is how they are training their staff. Okay, select a false identity and do something to get another to go into sympathy with you and help you. Step 2, select a false identity and do something to intentionally get another to intentionally avoid you or get angry with you. Write up the results. Step 3, get into the false identity of a salesman or a sales lady and go into a store under the guise that you work there until you get someone, a customer, to ask you a question and you handle them as applicable. Write up the results. Step 4, get into the false identity of a nurse or doctor in a hospital or medical facility to the point where you give an order or direction to someone inside the facility, a public or a staff person, and they comply fully believing your identity. Write up the results. Step 5, get into the false identity of being a wealthy individual in a Cadillac, Mercedes, Jaguar, or Rolls-Royce dealership and get a salesman to give you his services for over a half hour and test drives of at least 3 different automobiles. If you don't drive, you may substitute an exclusive chain of jewelry stores, i.e. Tiffany's, to try on 10 different diamond rings over a 1/2 hour period of time. Write up the results. They are literally training their staff to convincingly and confidently assume false identities and enter different groups, establishments, or organizations to confidently trick people. This is how Scientology is different than other organizations. Step 6, mock up a false identity. That means create a false identity and get at least 3 different people to believe it and handle you for at least 5 minutes, all at the same time, and write up the results. Okay. Step 7, create a fake identity and get at least 20 people all at the same time to stop what they're doing and pay attention to you for at least 5 minutes. Write up the results. And it gets better, guys. It gets better or it gets worse, depending on how you look at it. The next drill, creating incidents which reflect on others. Okay, instructions. Flunk for being spotted as a creator. Take care here to use real targets or elements of society which are downstat, criminal, or suppressive. Okay, now that's because the following drills are actually intended to create genuine havoc, genuine destruction. And so they want to target groups, companies, organizations that Scientology considers destructive and therefore are fair game. Okay, so here we go. Step 1, locate some type of mental health clinic or psych hospital and find some area where a bunch of employees work together in one space, like a business or records office or some psych consultants that work in one area, etc. Pick out a target employee to run an op on. Now run direct observation in the area regarding the target person and anything you may know about such areas from your own experience. Pick a weakness to assume, which would be disliked in that environment. Now connect that carelessness up with the target person, either while the target person is present or absent, in such a way that it impinges with one or more of the target person's fellow employees, i.e., you're certain that the fellow employees won't immediately dig up your connection to the target person as being crazy or not unusual. This must be done by some type of personal visit, not a phone call, not an email, etc. Write up the results. Step 2, Do the same as the previous channel, same employee, or a different one in a different area if you wish. But this time, run the channel with the target person's seniors being your public instead of his fellow employees. Must be done by some type of personal visit, by yourself, or by getting a Scientology agent to do it. R factor and drill the Scientology agent as needed. Okay, so in this case, R factor is a Scientology word that means to basically brief somebody, just to explain something to them. Okay, so what's the actual step here? Oh, well, the step was to do the exact same thing as we just discussed, except do it with the person's bosses and not their coworkers. Okay, next step, step 3. Do the same or similar thing on a target person, his or her boss as the target for your channel, and a Scientology agent must be used to execute the foreign channel. You may do all the research, etc. yourself, but you must run a Scientology agent to actually physically carry out the op. No letters, no phone calls, etc. Write up the results. Okay, next drill, recognizing basic effectiveness of plans. This is crazy, guys. All right, instructions. Take into account effectiveness, security, legality, workability, etc. when making your decisions. Choose which basic plan is best. The general scene. The person to restrain or remove. I get it. Okay, so it's giving different scenarios, and then you have multiple choice handlings, and you're supposed to pick which handling would be most effective, secure, legal, workable, etc. Okay, so the general scene. The person to restrain or remove is Mr. Jones. Offense in local government agency attacking the org. A. So what's the best plan, you guys? Order hundreds of dollars worth of liquor in Jones's name and have it delivered to his home to cause him trouble and make the liquor store owner dislike him. Or B. Call up Jones's boss and accuse Jones of being a homosexual. Interesting. Or C. Send Jones's boss evidence of Jones accepting bribes on his job with copies to police and local FBI. Okay, next scenario. A psychiatrist who has instigated attacks on the org via police and the press. What's the best way to handle this scene, you guys? Is it A, expose his Nazi background to the press with evidence that he still attends local Nazi meetings? Is it B, wake him up every night by calling him on the phone and threatening him? Or is it C, send a Scientology agent in to be a patient of his for 1 year to disperse the psychiatrist during sessions? Wow. Interesting. Next scenario, a newspaper executive, Clyde McDonald, who's behind local attacks. What is the best way to handle this, folks? Is it A, poison him while he's asleep so he'll never start another attack? Is it B, make known to the paper owner that McDonald is responsible for the paper's decreasing advertising revenues? Is it C, spread a rumor around to the paper's employees that McDonald is a communist? Or is it D, put itching powder in McDonald's clothes so he'll scratch himself all day, thus preventing him from writing a story? Okay, next scenario. A grammar school teacher who got an applied scholastics grant canceled and is continuing to cause trouble for Applied Scholastics International in other schools. Applied Scholastics is Scientology's front group for getting Scientology information introduced into public schools. Okay, so what's the best way to handle the situation, guys? Is it to cleverly kidnap the teacher and run reverse Scientology processes on her while implanting the phrase, I will never attack ASI again, I love ASI? Is it B, get copies of the court records where she was found guilty of child molesting and send a copy to the school principal, Board of Education, and a few school children's parents? Or is it C, send in a male Scientology agent in on her, who, after she falls in love with him, will get her to move out of the country with him? Or is it D, pay 10 of her students to write dirty phrases about her on the schoolroom blackboard? Next scenario, a local Catholic church is causing many local attacks on the organization. What's the best way to handle this, guys? A, send several Scientology agents over to the Catholic church to swear at him in confessionals. Okay, I guess swear at the head of the church. Is it B, connect him up to extortion and or pornographic activities? C, write the Pope an anonymous letter stating that the bishop is really a rabbi undercover. Or D, spread a rumor around town that he's against air pollution. Okay. And then it says, create 5 similar examples as above on your own and note the correct answer as far as which plan would be most effective. Okay, the blog post continues on here. Below are the final drills to bring everything together. These culminate in exactly the sort of operations carried out against Paulette Cooper and Gabe Cesaris. The only reason there isn't evidence of such operations being conducted today is that there has not been a raid by the FBI to seize OSA files since 1977, is what that should say there. If a raid were to happen tomorrow, there would be ample evidence in the files that similar operations are ongoing right now. Recently, Scientology tried to frame Leah Remini and me as accessories to a murder in Australia. It was completely fabricated and followed precisely the pattern laid out by L. Ron Hubbard and described in these drills. This is not hypothetical. It is the shocking reality of the Scientology cult mindset. To again quote from the Department of Justice from their sentencing memorandum against Scientology, quote, these defendants were willing to frame their critics to the point of giving false testimony under oath against them, and having them arrested and indicted speaks legion for their disdain for the rule of law. Indeed, they arrogantly placed themselves above the law, meting out their own personal brand of punishment to those guilty of opposing their selfish aims. Okay, so here's the final drills. Take each of the following situations and data and plan a 3-channel operation for each one. Wow. Okay. So here's the situation. Here's the drill. Here's the situation for the drill that the Scientology operative here has to create a 3-channel operation to fix. Create an op on a local psychiatrist who doesn't formally practice psychiatry anymore, but has a column in a local newspaper in which he discusses just about anything he wants to, colored by his psych viewpoint. He's been traced back as the WHO behind local press attacks on Scientology. We know that he attends orgies rather frequently with prostitutes. We know he's married with 2 kids. We know that he's a social heroin user or uses it 1 or 2 times a month at parties. We know that the owner of the newspaper's wife is a rabid Christian and despises anyone who is against Jesus. We know that the newspaper owner dearly loves his wife and would do anything for her. We know that the psych likes to go sailing weekly on his yacht and that he smokes Camel cigarettes. Scandalous. Okay, the next one. Create an operation on a female publisher who is behind printing great quantities of negative information on Scientology. We know that she's a registered alien, like an immigrant. Okay, we know that is aliens are convicted of we know that aliens who are convicted of a crime will be deported. But she is wanted for contempt of court in her native country, Germany. We know that she occasionally smokes weed. We know that she owes a lot of money to writers whose books she published and has many outstanding bills to pay. And we know that she's actually very insolvent and that she's been doing business in Chicago for 5 years without a license. We know that her father was a Nazi who killed over 1,500 Jews in Poland. And we know that she's engaged to a man whose father is the conductor of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Okay, that's kind of a lot. Next item here. Create an operation on a local squirrel group. Guys, a squirrel group in Scientology is a group that sort of breaks off from Scientology and practices Scientology outside of the Church of Scientology. Okay, create an operation on a local squirrel group whose leader blew the Sea Organization 4 years ago and now has a rapidly expanding squirrel group. We know that he's money motivated. We know he's married, but he also has affairs with his female students. We have 2 Scientology agents in his group. One is a student. The other handles the finances of the group. We know that he gets Scientology technical bulletins and he rewrites them verbatim, but he changes any mentions of Scientology and Dianetics to the name of his own group, and he changes L. Ron Hubbard's name to his own name. We know that he's auditing a local policeman, that he has a grant for $5,000 with the local government to pay for his research expenses for the next 2 years, which he spends on utility bills and other operating expenses. We know that he's got 2 pet dogs and 1 pet turtle, and he spends a lot of time and money maintaining his obsession, a restored 1927 Rolls Royce. I love how the scenarios being presented involve knowing these types of amazingly fine details about the person's private life. And that is because it is always just implied and understood that they have been surveilling any such critic of Scientology using private investigators and sending person in to infiltrate their personal life. I love how that's just assumed. It's not even stated. Step 4. Create an operation on a suppressive person writer who works for a popular national magazine and who, on his own, has developed international communication lines with anti-Scientologists and disaffected staff members. He acts as a switchboard for N Theta, which is negative information, on Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard, and sources many false reports on his own. We know that he drinks liquor daily, has a hobby of building model airplanes, has been an award-winning writer but hasn't won an award for 5 years, that the publisher owner of the magazine's pet love in life is to get his own name onto as many boards of directors or committees, lists of social, I don't know what that means, or charity giveaway associations as he can, that the writer's senior editor will get very upset with on fire. Get very upset with or fire any writer who doesn't put in some working time at the office in the evenings and weekends, and that the writer puts in just enough extra time to keep his boss happy. We know that the writer likes to go fishing and hunting. Okay, in the last scenario, create an operation on a disaffected ex-Scientologist who blew Scientology from his local hometown mission last year and is now writing negative information in the local college newspaper about Scientology, where he attends school and writes in the paper as part of his journalism studies. One of his negative articles got bought by a national college wire service and was printed in many college papers throughout the United States. We know his parents and a few of his friends' names from his former records at the mission, and we know he likes sports, but that is about all. All of these scenarios are crazy. One of the things that struck me as uniquely interesting about that last scenario is how low the stakes were on the person Scientology was targeting in that scenario. It's just a local disaffected Scientologist who blew from his local hometown mission. A mission is a tiny little introductory Scientology organization that's not even owned by the Mother Church of Scientology. They're privately owned organizations by Scientologists. And it's supposed to be like where most people get introduced to Scientology for the first time. So that means this person wasn't even like a seasoned veteran Scientologist, didn't know anything particularly special or interesting, had never worked with any high-level executives or L. Ron Hubbard or David Miscavige. And yet all it took was for someone to be an ex-Scientologist who's writing negative information about Scientology in their local college newspaper. And Scientology uses that as a real example of someone who would be targeted for destruction by the Office of Special Affairs. Now, one of the reasons that this entire blog post really jumped out to me and I thought was worthy of a video is because just look at what happened in the former Scientologist YouTube space after former Scientologists on YouTube became kind of a big deal within the last 2 years. All of a sudden, anonymous people on the internet popped up to run operations exactly like this against every single creator and channel that considers themselves to be a part of SPTV. Now, for new viewers, SP means suppressive person. Suppressive person is what Scientology calls former members who speak out against Scientology. So the moniker SPTV may be most closely associated with my channel, but only because my channel is the biggest. The truth is, SPTV generally refers to former Scientologists who put up content on YouTube about Scientology. And it also refers to people who've never been in Scientology who put up similar content and contribute to the conversation and help expose the fraud and the abuse of Scientology. And yet, the most active individuals in creating these attacks, the attacks exactly like are laid out in these drills here, the most active individuals doing this are people who are completely anonymous, who've never been in Scientology, or to claim to have been in Scientology, but still post anonymously because they don't want anyone else in the community of former Scientologists to know who they are. In fact, one of the only people who's been engaged in all of these attacks who isn't anonymous is Stefani Hutchison. And she has become somewhat of the de facto ringleader of all of these anonymous hate accounts and hate profiles, just every single day for any reason whatsoever, attacking every single person in SPTV. It is an interesting study in the tactics of Scientology. I don't have any reason to believe that Stefani Hutchison herself is on OSA's payroll. In fact, I would argue I have plenty of reason to believe that she's not. But what Stefani Hutchison and others like her don't understand is that they are completely oblivious to the ways in which they're being manipulated by OSA. Completely oblivious. All they can see is their own anger and justified hatred and venom, and they don't really care. Well, Stefani particularly doesn't really care that she is so obviously being exploited and used as a tool by OSA. She doesn't care. Now, if she did care, I mean, she doesn't know. She doesn't realize it. If she did know it, if she did realize it, I don't know that she would care, because she herself is so hateful. She would probably gladly accept help from Scientology's Office of Special Affairs in helping to do this. Exactly what's in these drills here. Spread a rumor to these people, get these people to spread a rumor to that people, verify that this group has a damaged relationship with this group, write up the results. It is amazing to see these drills, these tactics, these operations in work on a day-to-day basis, every single day, playing out on the internet, where it could never be easier for Scientology to implement these things, because they do it through sheer anonymity, feeding information to completely unquestioning, hateful people like Stefani Hutchison, who just runs with it. To see these people running around the internet, forwarding, asserting, insisting on facts that are just so completely false, easily proven false, and to see it happening again and again and again, you go, wow. OSA is really doing today, every day, what they've always done. And it's just interesting to see it. And it's interesting to use this as an opportunity to call it out and to show it and to show you Scientology's own words, where they say this is exactly what they do. How it's laid out here is exactly how they do it. And one of the biggest lessons, one of the biggest takeaways is that OSA's product is, as stated in these drills, to eventually get people doing their work for them, forwarding their lies for them, attacking the people they want to attack, to get other people to do that work for them without even realizing that that is what is happening. OSA has gotten its product with Stefani Hutchison and a handful of others. Luckily, them getting their product doesn't actually prevent any of us who are doing this on YouTube from continuing to do this on YouTube. And I've said it a million times, and I'll say it a million more times. There is absolutely nothing anyone can say or do to me, my friends, my associates, my family members, my sponsors, anything, anyone. There's nothing anyone can do or say that's going to get me to stop doing what I'm doing here on YouTube. And that's what really matters. Scientology is never going to change. They're going to keep doing everything that they try to do. But I'm not going to go away, and neither is anyone else. All right, everyone. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.